Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're doing a deep dive today, and today we're digging into Atomic Habits with these excerpts you sent over from James Clear's book. I think you're in for a treat. It's dense.
Yeah.
It's a lot of information packed in there, but so valuable. And that's our mission for this deep dive, right? To kind of break down some of those dense chapters into bite-sized pieces that we can use like right now.
Yeah, I love that. I think, Clear does a good job at getting to the point quickly in those chapters. And one of the things that I really appreciated about his approach is this idea that small changes add up.
Yeah, it's so easy to get caught in that like go big or go home mentality when
Yeah,
it comes to self-improvement. So you're saying he's kind of advocating for a different approach.
absolutely. It's like, these tiny things that we do day in and day out, they really shape who we become over time.
Okay, so instead of trying to like overhaul our entire lives overnight, we should be focusing on building those atomic habits, those tiny changes that
Yeah,
add up.
exactly. It's like casting votes.
Oh, interesting.
Each choice we make is like a vote for the type of person we want to be.
Oh, I love that analogy because it
Yeah.
makes it feel a little less overwhelming, right? Like it's not about being perfect every single day, but it's those small decisions that add up over time.
Absolutely.
But what about those times, I'm curious to get your thoughts on this, those times when we feel stuck? We're putting in the effort, we're casting those votes, but we're just not seeing any outward changes yet.
Yeah, you've just hit upon one of the most important concepts in the book, the plateau of latent potential.
Ooh, that sounds very intriguing. Break that down.
So think about when you're learning a new skill, right? Maybe you're learning a new language, a musical instrument, or a new sport.
Yeah.
You're putting in the reps, every day, but it feels like you're making zero progress, zero progress. And then all of a sudden, something clicks.
Oh my gosh, yes. I can think about so many examples of that in my own life. I remember when I was trying to learn to play the guitar, it felt impossible for the longest time, and then one day I could actually play like a chord progression, and it felt like magic.
It's not magic.
Yeah.
It's the plateau of latent potential.
Okay.
It's in action. It's like Clear says that our progress with habits often follows a similar trajectory. We make these small changes and they don't seem to have an immediate impact, but underneath the surface, things are happening.
So even though we might not see those like dramatic overnight transformations, those small efforts are still making a difference.
Yeah. It just, consistency is key.
Got it.
And the cool thing is he doesn't just leave us with these motivational pep talks,
Yeah, right.
He actually gives us a framework. He gives us some tools we can use. He calls them the 4 laws of behavior change.
Okay, it's like he's giving us the cheat codes to level up our lives.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm here for it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
What's the first law?
The first law is all about making the cue for the habit obvious. Clear says our brains are these incredible prediction machines. We're constantly scanning our environment for cues to tell us what to do next.
That makes sense because it's like when I see my phone light up, I instantly reach for it without even thinking, or how the smell of freshly baked cookies can instantly trigger a craving. It's like, boom, I need that cookie.
Exactly. We're hardwired to respond to cues, right? So if we want to build better habits, we have to make the cues for those habits as obvious as possible.
So instead of relying on willpower alone, we can actually use our brain's like natural tendencies to our advantage.
That's right. He calls this implementation intention.
Okay.
It's about like taking the guesswork out of it by deciding exactly when and where you're going to do this.
So instead of saying, I'm going to eat healthier, you might say, after I pour my morning coffee, I'll eat a piece of fruit at the kitchen counter.
Yes.
Okay.
You're making the cue obvious. The coffee's already there. You're tying it to the action, eating the fruit, and you're doing it in a specific location.
Yeah.
You're taking the decision-making out of it.
Oh, I love how tactical that is. It's like you're setting yourself up for success before you even start. But what about those habits that aren't inherently enjoyable?
Yeah.
Like, how do we make those stick?
That's where law number 2 comes in. Make
Yeah.
it attractive. And this is where we get to tap into the power of dopamine.
Okay, dopamine, the
Yeah.
feel-good hormone,
Yeah.
neurotransmitter.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm all for that. Let's get some more dopamine flowing.
Yeah, so it's not just about the reward itself, but it's about the anticipation leading up to it.
Okay.
Clear suggests a technique called temptation bundling. And that's basically just pairing something that you need to do with something that you want to do.
So it's like you're tricking your brain into like craving something beneficial by linking it to something you already enjoy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
right.
It's all about, reframing those associations in your mind. And speaking of making things easier, that leads us perfectly to the third law, make it easy.
Ooh, okay. So we're talking about streamlining our habits, removing any unnecessary friction points, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Claire talks about reducing that, like, activation energy that's required to start a habit.
Okay.
The easier it is to do something, the more likely you are to do it.
I mean, yeah, that's interesting because it feels so obvious, but it's so easy to forget that when we're talking about building habits, especially those that require a little bit more effort up front.
Oh, yeah, our brains are like, they're wired to conserve energy, and so they're always looking for the path of least
Yeah,
resistance.
that's so true.
Think about those times you just like zone out and scroll through social media for like an hour. It's so easy, it's so readily available, and it takes almost no effort.
Okay, ouch, that's too real. But if we can apply that, like same principle to our good habits, imagine the possibilities, right?
Exactly, exactly. One of the strategies that Claire suggests is this idea of the 2-minute rule.
Okay, I've heard of that.
Have you?
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, the idea is basically you break down a new habit into a version that takes 2 minutes or less to start.
Okay, so instead of trying to run, let's say, a 5K straight out of the gate, I could just start by, like, putting on my running shoes and walking around the block.
That's it.
Okay.
You just make it so easy, there's no resistance to starting, and then once you've started, you're much more likely to keep going.
Yeah, you've built the momentum. You've proven to yourself you can take action.
Exactly.
It's like that saying, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Exactly, exactly. And speaking of journeys, the final law is all about making it satisfying.
Okay, this is a good one. We talked about making it attractive through anticipation and bundling. But how do we actually make the habit itself feel rewarding?
Yeah, Clear talks about the importance of immediate gratification.
Okay.
He points out that our brains are wired to prioritize those short-term rewards over the long-term ones.
Oh, I know it too well. It's so easy to choose that instant gratification, even when we know, like, logically, it might not be the best choice in the long run. It's like, I know I shouldn't have that extra cookie, but it sounds really good right now.
Exactly, exactly. So to make good habits stick, we need to find ways to make them immediately satisfying. One powerful strategy is habit tracking.
Oh, love habit tracking.
Oh, you do?
Big fan. Big fan.
Yeah, it's really effective.
There's something, like, so motivating about visually being able to see your progress, right?
Yeah.
Checking things off those lists, those boxes. I love it.
Exactly. Visual cues tap into our brain's reward system. It builds momentum and it reinforces that behavior, so you're more likely to repeat it.
Okay, so we've covered making our habits obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. It feels like we have a solid foundation for building better habits.
Yes.
But is there anything else that we should keep in mind as we kind of embark on this journey of putting these laws into practice?
Yeah, this is where Clear goes beyond the individual, like, willpower, right? He introduces this idea that our environment and our social circles play a huge role.
Okay, that makes sense. We're not just like individuals making choices in a vacuum.
Exactly.
We're constantly being influenced by, our surroundings and the people that we're around. It's like that saying, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
100%, yeah.
I'm curious to hear how he kind of applies that to habits.
Yeah, he gives this really fascinating example. He talks about the invention of the cash register.
Okay.
So back in the 1800s, employee theft, it was a huge problem.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. But then, along came the cash register, and it basically made it much harder to steal because every transaction was recorded. It wasn't about changing the employees themselves. It was about changing the environment to make the desired behavior, honesty, more likely.
Wow, that's such a powerful example of how, it's not always about willpower, but it's actually about kind of setting up our surroundings to support the habits that we want to build.
That's it, yeah. And it applies to our own lives in so many ways, right?
Yeah.
If you're trying to eat healthier, make it easier by keeping, healthy snacks visible and within reach, and then maybe putting those tempting treats out of sight, out of mind.
Out of sight, out of mind. It's about removing those friction points.
Yeah.
You make the default option the healthier one.
Yes.
Yes, like you said, make it easy.
Exactly. And it's not just our physical environment. Our social environment matters too.
Right. Like we've all heard that saying, birds of a feather flock together.
Yeah.
But you're saying it goes a little deeper than that our social circles can actually influence our habits.
It's more than influence. It's like we're wired for conformity.
Okay.
Clear talks about how we kind of subconsciously adopt the habits and the norms and even the beliefs of the groups that we identify with.
Yeah, that makes me think about how much easier it is to stick to, like, a workout routine, if you've got a workout buddy or you're part of like a fitness community,
Oh, 100%.
you've got that shared accountability.
That support system, yeah. Yeah.
So if you're trying to build better habits, surround yourself with people who embody those habits.
It's like choosing your team,
Yes,
finding your tribe of people who inspire you to be better.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it. And this, this actually leads us to another tool that Clear talks about. And this is, for those of us who might need a little bit more structure, he calls it a habit contract.
Okay, it sounds very official. Does this involve lawyers?
No lawyers required, but
Yeah.
it does involve putting it in writing.
Okay.
It's about you and maybe an accountability partner,
Okay.
creating a clear agreement. You outline your goals. What are the stakes? Maybe even what are the consequences if you don't follow through?
I've heard of entrepreneurs doing this for like big goals. Like if they don't hit a certain revenue target, then they have to like donate to a charity that they don't agree with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Make the stakes meaningful.
Clear himself, actually, he used the habit contract to achieve his goal of publishing consistently.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
So we can use these contracts to kind of add that extra layer of accountability, whether it's with a friend or a mentor or even like a coach.
Yeah.
But at what point do we transition from needing that like external accountability to kind of like cultivating that internal motivation? Where does that come in?
That's where I think Clear's insights on identity are so valuable.
Okay.
He says, true behavior change, the kind that sticks, it's actually identity change.
So it's not just about forcing ourselves to do something that we think we should be doing, but it's about actually becoming the type of person who does those things naturally.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Yeah.
And one of the most powerful ways to solidify this identity shift is by reflecting on our habits and celebrating our wins.
So it's not just about like checking off the boxes, but it's also about acknowledging the progress we're making,
Yes.
giving ourselves credit for showing up.
Yeah, internalize those small wins and let them shape how you see yourself.
Yeah.
We become what we repeatedly do.
This has been such a great conversation. We've talked about the power of small changes, the 4 laws of behavior change, the importance of our environment, social influence, and even aligning our habits with our identity. Is there anything else that stood out to you from Atomic Habits that we haven't really touched on?
I think one final thought that I found really, really powerful was Clear's emphasis on embracing the long game.
Okay, tell me more about that. What does he mean by playing the long game when it comes to habits?
I think it's about shifting our focus from like immediate results to sustainable progress. It's about understanding that real change, it takes time, it takes effort, and it even takes a willingness to like embrace those setbacks along the way.
Yeah, it's trusting the process.
Yes.
Embracing the fact that it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. And I think that's a powerful, powerful message to end on.
It really is. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into Atomic Habits. We hope you got some really good insights today. And remember, even the smallest changes, when they're compounded over time, can lead to some pretty remarkable results. So what's the one atomic habit you're going to start building today?